And so we know myself and Jacob. Carsten, could you give us a brief introduction?
Yeah, my name is Carsten Möhl. I'm from MasterCard, responsible for cyber intelligence solutions for Germany and Switzerland. And I basically represent all the products which have to do with cyber security stuff. And one of these products is Identity Check, which better known for 3D Secure.
Great. And thanks for joining us. Well, Carsten, can you give us a little bit of background on what's happening in Europe? What's happening in December 2020, and what should OEMs be aware of? And I think actually maybe a lot may not even be aware that there are some new regulations occurring.
Actually, this regulation we're talking to is called the Payment Service Directive 2, and there is the regulatory technical standards. And part of this is that the regulator, which is the European Banking Association and the European Commission, they said a couple of years ago to fight fraud that a strong customer authentication is obligatory for any type of e-commerce payment. And so these regulatory technical standards had been issued and published a long time ago. And by September 2019, so last year, they said strong customer authentication needs to be there. And because everybody saw that this will not work, because the industry overall was not prepared, it was postponed. And the postponement was taken until end of this year. So 1st of January 2020, basically a strong customer authentication needs to be there in the European Union. So that's basically what the law is saying. Interestingly, the regulatory technical standards have roughly, I would say, 80 or so pages. And most of the regulatory technical standards say when the strong customer authentication is not needed. Yeah, because if you write about that the strong customer authentication is needed, then that would have been one page. Yeah, but basically the rest of this entire thing is about all these exemptions, exclusions, and these things.
And who you spoke about regulators, but basically who in the payments ecosystem is affected by this?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because the regulator is always talking about payment service providers, and basically regulated is the acquirers who are doing the business in Europe, and the issuing banks who are doing business in Europe. And basically really only the European Union, these countries in the European Union. And only if these two sides are met, that the cardholder as well as the merchant and the payment service providers tied to this are both in the European Union, then this law applies. So this is always called as the two-leg. So basically two legs have to be in the European Union, and only then the law applies. So if one is outside of the European Union, let's say the cardholder is an American, then no strong customer authentication necessities. And interestingly, the merchants are not regulated. Yeah, so regulated is the acquirer, which is a very interesting side information. Yeah, because as a merchant, basically you can do what you want, but you have to find an acquirer who is then doing what you want. Yeah, and you will have problems probably finding an acquirer who will not go for all these necessities which are there in the law.
Yeah. So Jacob, can you explain to everyone else on the call what this means, or how this has impacted you, and what are the OEMs should be concerned about here?
Yes, so Carsten, you've mentioned the acquirers are those who are regulated here, but actually from a merchant point of view, and especially when we're talking about cars being the payment platform, we as a merchant feel very regulated, because I think all merchants who are participating in e-commerce, they have simply the fear of, well, losing customers, losing conversion due to, let's say, cumbersome workflow somewhere where the customer gives up, or the methods don't work, or something other happens. This is, I think, the main fear they have, that this will be at the end the conversion killer here, to have a, let's say, second factory. And maybe we should, John, explain what the main idea of PSD2 strong customer authentication is. So actually it is, in Carsten, you bear with me that I'm not that precise, but actually strong customer authentication is that you need to have 2 of 3 factors, and those factors can be knowledge, biometrics, so an way of how you identify yourself, and possession. And 2 of those 3 factors need to be present. So knowledge, of course, is quite easy. You ask a PIN or a question or something like that. But then when it comes to the other methods, like biometrics or for possession, it might be quite a challenge, especially when we talk about car payments, right? Because then we come to the point, well, we might have a lack of technology here. I think Mike was mentioning that in a panel before, that there is something missing at the moment. And I have someone in my team who tends to say, well, when PSD2 was set up, they have simply forgot that there are cars and other types of hardware that also want to pay, which, well, it's always a bit exaggerating, of course, but I think that brings it to the point that something is missing here.
There's something that you know, and then something that you are the 2 challenging ones, right? Because in the vehicle, if it's something that you know, you might be typing in a PIN and others may actually see that or hear that. And then something that you are, like biometrics, you need to have a sensor of some sort to be able to do that as well, which is a much more costly proposition in the car.
Yeah, it's but the regulator never was in such a deep knowledge of all these different types of payments and channels and things. You know, I mean, the regulator basically is only saying, okay, I want to have a very, very tight, very close security level to fight financial crime in any matter. Yeah, that was the pure idea behind the regulation. And definitely the regulator now, one by one, found out, wait a second, for example, in travel industry, it doesn't really work to do it this way. So we give a lift off for all kind of travel bookings. Yeah? And then also they decided, oh, wait a second, if I pay with when I pass for transport and I want to pay for the autobahn and have to very fast pay, then strong customer authentication, they're not needed either. So one by one, these rules are weakened, you can say. Yeah, and I'm also of the opinion that in-car or these Internet of Things payments, this hasn't been foreseen, and this is something which definitely needs a special angle from the regulator. But the problem is now that nobody has addressed it to the regulator. Yeah. So nobody has gone to the regulator saying, hey, wait a second, we want to introduce the new normal within in-car payments, and the strong customer authentication doesn't fit to our technology we have in automobiles. And this, I personally think, is a problem, because the regulator doesn't even know that this problem exists. Yeah. So and therefore, I personally believe there is needed some action from car manufacturers towards, for example, the national competent authorities, either in the European Union or in the countries where they are very strong, addressing this issue. Yeah. And I personally think that, and I hope that regulators understand, wait a second, there are some innovative innovations going on, and this is something which needs attention. But with a strong customer authentication, as we propagate, this might hinder innovation. And especially in terms of, is there really so much of fraud happening with in-car payments? Yeah, is this really a fraud channel, which is the #1 item which needs to be addressed? And very fast, probably the regulator will see, wait a second, this probably is not the way forward. But like I said, it hasn't been addressed. The regulator doesn't even know probably that there is a problem. And I think there's pretty much good arguments why a strong customer authentication in certain occasions are not really the greatest thing to do. Yeah, for example, I mean, if you take the normal strong customer authentication as we're building it right now, this is done with very much with smartphones. Yeah, so just imagine this is implemented the best possible way, and you're buying some certain map for your, I don't know, you buy a song, you buy a certain song you want to listen to, and you drive in the German Autobahn with 200 miles per hour, and then you have to put your fingerprint on the smartphone to really actually get this song. Yeah, or whatever you want to buy in this moment. This is a movie for your child, which is in the back watching a movie. Yeah, so not to irritate you while you are driving with 200 miles per hour on the Autobahn. And this can't be. Yeah, this is not the way forward, because then you make an accident because you interfere with your mobile phone. So, and there I think we need discussion, and we need talks to find a solution. Yeah, honestly speaking.
So Carsten, what's a good way for automakers to become more informed or understand more about those requirements? Is it to reach out to folks like yourselves, or talk to their acquirers?
I think it's really necessary to have specialists, and I think the car manufacturers, they have specialists who are taking care and look at these things, but they really need to look very narrow from what is being provided from the schemes or from technical providers. What we, for example, we have written down so-called the authentication guidelines. Yeah, and basically this is the Bible of what is currently being said for authentication with MasterCard under the new regulation. So I personally would say, get the authentication guidelines. We have them on our internet site without any costs. You can just download them and then read them, and then make a date, for example, with a local representative from MasterCard. Ask him what can we do here? What's going on? How can we progress? I think inform. This is important. Read the stuff which is published. There's lots of stuff published, and then talk to the right people, like the schemes, or then also address it to the regulator. Talk to the regulator about it. Yeah.
Great. Jacob, any advice that you can give OEMs here as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think Carsten already mentioned keep yourself informed. I think we touched also that one in the panels. I perfectly with you here, Carsten, but I think anyway, there is always, you can keep yourself informed and you know what to do, but still you're lacking some implementation standards. So I think there might be also another group to address too, namely to standardization companies or to implementation companies who help you in setting up those standards in devices which hadn't been addressed yet. And as you said, Carsten, currently the whole payment, when you check the EMV standards or FIDO, it's all focused on web, on mobile phones. Maybe we need some more on that to make aware, well, there's more devices out there and they also need payment. Maybe we come up with a different standard, who knows, but this, I would also say there is another group to address it too. Need to get some more standardization here and to open the standardization to other platforms.
Great, thank you. So I think we've come up on time. You know, these are the type of topics that we'd like to cover within the special interest group for in-vehicle payments at Geneva. So these are hopefully helpful activities that members can get involved with. You know, we hope that to begin to tackle these types of topics and facilitate these conversations, and also with not just OEM membership, but also with payment companies and other related payments ecosystem partners.
John, Carson, and Jacob, thank you all for the fireside chat. Great discussion, and for the previous panel. We're at the top of the hour and the end of our day, but we want to thank all of our guest speakers throughout the course of today's session. Fantastic conversations, good questions. If you didn't get your questions answered, we encourage you to reach out directly to the panel speakers. Also, if you haven't had a chance, please do go to the Geneva Demo Showcase. It's a great time to look at that post-session and as a kickoff tomorrow and to tomorrow's breaks. And speaking of tomorrow, we are back on at 1500 German time, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific with our day 2 session. And we'll be tackling the Common Vehicle Interface Initiative with some great guest talks from Volvo, Renault, Software Factory, and Ford. So please be sure to tune back in for tomorrow's, or tomorrow afternoon, depending on the time zone you're in, day 2 session. But for today, thank you all for attending the Geneva all-member meeting, and have a good rest of your evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on which time zone you happen to be in.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.